Thanks for coming back. This is the mind behind the mask, back with another video. Sorry that I couldn't post this one back earlier, but as we all know, life sometimes gets in the way. Last time I made my very first MGTOW YouTube video, but since then I felt what was missing was to explain my personal reasons for becoming MGTOW, and I thought this would be an appropriate follow-up. The first reason I became MGTOW is my mother, and the second is my father. Search Google for any articles relating to a parent's emotional and psychological influence on a child, and you'll find the results littered with pages upon pages that revealed information regarding the effects on children and their connection to the social environment. Children instinctively model themselves after their parents and their behaviors to a fault, and more often than not, who they grow up to as adults can be traced back to whoever raised them. This is not to excuse an individual's personal responsibility, as in this case, myself, but to highlight the type of person one is likely to become due to one's long forgotten past influences. So, let's start with my mother. My moment of revelation started as a mere obligation to take her out to dinner to spend some time together. Anyone who knows me personally knows that I'm rather well-mannered, if a little cold and standoffish. So my mother would, every once in a while, complain that I don't see her enough. So we started making dinner plans, and the restaurant she initially chose was notorious for its long wait queue. We tried to pick a more convenient date for a shorter wait, and even had to postpone a couple of times. She started to flake a bit, so I had to push a little so we can get this over with, and we finally had a date settled. On the day of, I came by to pick up my mother at the house, and on the way out the door, I ran into my little brother. I had a strained relationship with him at the time because of the troubles he kept getting himself into and the family into. He was sad because he couldn't come along with us. It would have been inappropriate at the time, not only because the arrangement was originally only between our mother and myself, but also because I was not going to pay for his plate. I didn't think much about what happened after we left, but apparently my mother did. When we got to receipts, I'm thinking that everything is fine. Then I look across the table and I see a grown-ass woman leaning back into her chair, arms folded, looking everywhere else and not saying anything at all. She was like an overgrown child acting up in public. I tried at least a couple of times to start a conversation, but she wasn't having it. The whole experience left me feeling like an asshole. Later, while talking to someone else, she gave a comment, something to the extent of, "Yeah, we were there because he wanted to go." The whole thing pissed me off for two reasons. One, the personal reason, was that it was her insistence to go out in the first place, and it was her choice for the restaurant. However, because she was mad, she pulled the victim card and she made it sound like that it was suddenly my idea to drag her along. The second reason, the MGTOW reason, was that her little quip reminded me of this YouTube clip.
Yes. Oh, let's get into this shitstorm. Last week, I did somebody asked me a question about why, when a guy does something for his girlfriend, why is it never enough? And one of the problems that I've had and that this guy had last week is you try to plan something that both you and your girlfriend can enjoy as your night out, and evidently women have a problem when you pick something for the both of you to do that you as a guy will also enjoy. Evidently, from what I'm reading from these fucking psycho emails that I got this week, is that if it's not 100% about them, if you don't literally make a Rose Bowl fucking float, sit them on it, and then drag it down the street with your fucking teeth, they feel that you got too much enjoyment out of the evening. So basically the evening was really your evening. It was real. Look at the fucking wedding day. You stand in it like an idiot, and she makes this grand entrance. She gets some one-of-a-kind dress, and you get a tuxedo that some fucking drunk's going to wear at a 15-year anniversary for a bowling alley the next fucking week. You know what I mean? She says, my husband does the same damn thing. I'm like, what can we do for fun today/tonight? And the only thing he can come up with are things that interest him. Well, what can you come up with? Can you come up with anything that doesn't interest yourself, you selfish cunt? You're doing the exact same fucking thing. And it's unbelievably selfish for you to sit here and have like a day that's for both of you, and it has to be 100% about you. Because what? You did some laundry? You lazy fuck? You know what women are? They're like adult children. That's what they are. They never get beyond. They're like juveniles. They're adults, but they still want to be treated like they're not of age. It's just fucking boggles my goddamn mind. She goes, I'd rather not do anything at all. I think it's selfish and obnoxious that everything we do has to have his interests before mine. So everything that they do should have your interests before his? These fucking broads. They're out. See, this is my thing. This is why you should never get married. You should never be in a fucking relationship. You shouldn't, because they just constantly fucking hack away at your goddamn knees, and their idea of a relationship is that you do everything that they want to do. And right now, they're sitting there shaking their heads. They're going, no, no. Even the girl who wrote that's probably saying no. And there's a bunch of other women going like, I'm not like that. I'm not like that. I went to a ping pong convention. They always come up with some stupid ass fucking example. And at the end of the fucking day, you have to do everything that they do. You have to do what the fuck they want to do, or else they get mad. Okay? And that, my friend, is when jerking off comes into play. Because when you really break it down, what's the worst thing that they're going to do to you? They're not going to fuck you for a few days. Okay? And I got to be honest with you. Once you rub one out, who gives a fuck? And you have to have that clarity when your nuts are full.
Yeah, I got mad because I actually had this shit pulled on me and recognized it for what it was at the time. It was for the first time that I saw my mother as not just my mom, but another 21st century Western woman. A woman afflicted with the same slopstick thinking like every other female out there. Every memory that I had of her was recategorized to fit this new worldview that she was thrust into. For every moment when she acted petty, every moment when she acted deceitful, I then saw them for the disgusting actions that they were, instead of dismissing them instantly because she was my mother. From that day, I lost any real motivation to maintain any real connection with her. As for my father, he is a 100% grade A old school simp, but how he became one wasn't entirely his fault. Like most other mid-lower class black families, my father was raised by a single black mother. From what I gathered from earlier stories of the past, my grandparents had a rocky relationship. I never really saw or knew my grandfather, but I knew from personal experiences how my grandmother was. Foul-tempered, belligerent, meddlesome, backbiting, and vain. But she was also a real true Christian. After my grandfather was gone, what happened to my father is what happens to many black boys that grow up in single mother homes, and that is that they literally take on the role of the husband. My father was trained from a young age to listen to and to take care of my grandmother, and followed every bizarre and illogical command that she had for him. How bad did it get? My father formed his entire identity around being a mama's boy to the detriment of those around him. It was the reason that his first marriage failed. It was the reason that his children kept a long-distance relationship with them. It also affected his personality and self-perception, or lack thereof, as well. You know how sometimes in sitcoms you have one of those lame parents who pretends like he's in the know with his kids and tries to be hip and cool to relate to them? Well, that's my father in a nutshell, and he's like that for everyone. He always wants to be a part of any social group, but he comes across as a pretender, like he tries to act a certain way that he's not, and it's very obvious. How does this relate to myself and MGTOW? Like most other young black men, I was forced psychologically to relate to my mother in a certain way that did not correspond to how brave her truly was. No matter what she does, no matter how she acts, she is beyond reproach, and if I do attempt to bring up my grievances, then I am subject to the same typical female behavior of manipulation and shaming. This translates to me being fearful of any woman's perception of myself in later years. I typically avoided any situation which I could put myself out there lest I incur disfavor among the women that I am around. With my father, I inherited his meekness and the need to always be on the good side of others, even among strangers. I took on the lease of being the nice guy and the gentleman with other people, so that they'll have a good impression of me. This affected everything in my life, from my personality, my choice of clothing, how I questioned my actions constantly, everything. I was practically placed in a box throughout most of my life. However, this outside appearance that was created for me was not who I really was, for in my head, a lot of what I expressed contrasted to what I displayed in public. The shadow part of myself was a lot more aware of who I was and what it was around me than what I could express in public, in the open. I ended up with two different halves of myself, and because of this, I thought that there was something wrong with me, since I truly couldn't connect with other people the way I wanted to, and often felt and often expressed frustration and sorrow at not really being able to do so. MGTOW gave me a way out. I initially started out getting into the manosphere through the silly black gender civil war that was going on several years ago. From there, I came across Sandman. Then I found Barbarossa. And it was then during this time that I found the answers that I needed and gained the tools I could use to free myself from the prison that I was locked in. Even now, I'm working through this ongoing process and probably will do so for years to come, as I spent literally decades living under two different versions of a black matriarchy. However, throughout these past couple of years, I've become so much more centered and understanding of everything that's been put into place. I'm now finally able to focus on the shadow part of myself hidden beneath the mask, and maybe one day I'll finally be able to ready to throw away this mask forever. This is what MGTOW has done for me, and I hope to share what I've learned and what I will learn in the days to come. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, subscribing. This is the Mind Behind the Mask, signing out.